There's a little dust up between Carson Hocevar and Denny Hamlin at North Wilkesboro that I think is kind of flying under the radar. In today's video, I'm going to be telling you what exactly happened, why it happened, and a little bit more context. Because Denny Hamlin on Actions Detrimental went out there and kind of spilled the beans, if you will. Now, Carson Hocevar, he's someone that is always in the news, it seems like, whether it's for good things or for bad things, whether it's his off-track generosity, whether it's his on racetrack performance, or because he pissed someone off because he's so damn aggressive. Like, take your pick, whatever day, Carson's probably in the headlines. So this past weekend at North Wilkesboro, in stage one, there's a little bit of a dust up between Denny Hamlin and Carson Hocevar, and that included Denny waving the old finger out the window after having contact with Carson Hocevar. Now, a little context here. Denny's crew chief, Chris Gayle, chose track position over fresh tires after a caution had came out on or during stage one. So it left Hamlin to defend against Hocevar for several laps. And ironically, Hamlin ended up finishing second in this race. Hocevar ended up finishing 13th, which is a hell of a finish, and moved up to 7th in the chase standings for Carson. So that's cool, right? Now, on his podcast, Hamlin stated, "I gave him the old finger out the window." And a lot of people think, well, he flipped him off, right? Oh my gosh. But in fact, I think it's actually more funny and more ironic. He didn't flip him off. He did the old no thing. And he made it clear, look, it was more of a warning gesture after making some contact, not necessarily like he was pissed off and he just took it out on Carson. And they made no contact afterwards. Now, Hamlin, to his credit, he did give a lot of credit to Hocevar for being aggressive, for having a restart-focused approach after a deliberate strategy, noting that Hocevar overdrives corners and uses his right rear to move up cars, and you make contact or you wash someone up the racetrack. That's just kind of how it goes. At the end of the day, though, Carson Hocevar is great for the sport. And I think Denny Hamlin, as a driver, as a personality, as a team owner, he understands what Carson brings to this sport. He brings something that is genuine. And I strongly believe that Carson Hocevar is going to be the, I don't know if face of NASCAR is the right term, but he will be the most popular driver in NASCAR if he continues to do what he does on the track, off the track, and he continues to have performance and show his personality. And I understand that Chase Elliott's out there and he's been most popular driver since Dale Jr. retired many moons ago. But I think that there is a growing sentiment behind Carson where, yes, you're going to have drivers not like him. But I don't see a lot of people online outside of just like morons who wants to complain because it's Tuesday and they got nothing else to do. I think fans genuinely appreciate what Carson is doing. Now, if he rubs your favorite driver the wrong way, or he takes out your favorite driver, then sure, you're not going to be a Carson Hocevar fan for this week or this month or maybe even this year. You're going to be a little pissed off at him. And at some point, he's going to make contact with your favorite driver. So if it hasn't happened yet, don't worry. Wait your turn and it's going to happen. And I hope that he brings on this approach because he comes across as a very likable individual, someone that legitimately loves the sport. He loves the history of the sport. He loves where the sport is going. He loves being in the sport. He loves racing. He likes communicating with his fans, connecting with his fans, doing good things off the track. He's in a very happy position where he's finally gotten his big break. He's finally in a Cup Series car that's competitive and that he's been able to show his talents. That is something that is refreshing because at the longest time, we have been in a sport where it was the old names. It was NASCAR officials and executives just trying to almost strain the life out of the sport because they wouldn't pivot. They were so rigid with their decision makings. And now we have finally got a guy that is willing to just, okay, either I'm going to win the race or I'm going to wreck trying to win the race. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry, but that's just like how I'm racing. He's not a two-faced driver, right? I understand Zane Smith blasted him saying, hey, he'll tell you that he's sorry to your face, but then he'll go and he'll tweet something out. I don't necessarily see that. I think Carson is someone that is pretty straightforward in the way that he is. He's a good guy, but he's going to race you very, very, very hard. And if you don't like that, then you kind of got to deal with it at this point. So I'm very curious to see where Carson goes in his development, in his advancing. And I also think you have to give a lot of credit for Denny to not only come out there, share this little tea. All right, we all love tea. Let's be real, right? NASCAR has always been built on, yes, we want good racing, and yes, we want a good product, and we want the purity of the sport, right? We don't necessarily want a crash field thing, but we want a little drama. At the same time, though, we are connected to these drivers. You can go to your local short track and watch a race, but there is such a difference. And it doesn't matter what motorsport it is, but there is such a difference between that and NASCAR. And it's why. It's because of the drivers. It's because you are able to connect with them. And at a time and place in society where you can connect with a driver on social media, you can connect with them at the racetrack, and you can follow their career, and you can see the way that they handle and conduct themselves, the way that they speak, the way what they talk about. This has never been a better age for NASCAR content creation. You know, a few years back, NASCAR had built this giant place downtown Charlotte where it was all devoted towards content creation, and that they would hold classes and seminars for drivers. And they had a program for drivers if they wanted to reach out and try to help them with social media, trying to help them engage better with fans, get the word out better with sponsors, aside from just slapping a bunch of stickers on a car and going around for 3 hours. This is like a golden era, or the dawn of the beginning, whatever you want to look at it, in terms of being able to capture fans. And Carson Hocevar has 100% done that. And I think Denny Hamlin realizes that as a team owner, as a driver, as a personality, and he sees this. And so I think it's a beautiful thing. But Carson Hocevar, I think he's here to stay. I think he's a legit guy. I don't know how far he'll go in terms of success. I don't know if he'll be a Cup Series champion there at Spire, but regardless, he's competitive week in and week out. He makes headlines week in and week out. And more importantly, he makes the sport more interesting week in and week out. So let me know in the comments here below. Are you a fan of Carson? Are you not a fan of Carson? I'll see y'all in the next video.